Hello everybody, welcome to another coding adventure in Godot. Today I'm going to be talking about ship controls. And to mix things up a bit, I thought I would show the end product first, and then show the journey that I took along the way. I want to thank you for your time watching this video, and if you want to leave a comment saying that you were here, I would appreciate it. Or if you're planning on using the ship controls in any of your projects. Thank you so much. The first step in this process was creating a 3D model for the spaceship. I looked at a few assets online, but I couldn't really find anything that was free that I wanted to also use. So I decided I would take some time, learn some 3D modeling along the way, and this is the spaceship that I came up with. As you can see, it's made of multiple components. I started with a cube with all these components, and then I just manipulated it, adding in more triangle meshes until I was satisfied with the end result. I thought I would just take some time and show exactly what the ship looks like from all angles. After creating the triangle model, I imported it into Godot as a mesh instance, 3D, I think that's what it's called. Anyways, that and a collision shape and a camera so that it'd be positioned behind the ship at all times. I also added in some basic WASD movement controls just to make sure that everything was working, and a cube so that you could compare you had something to reference as you were moving back and forth. What I found is that creating good controls for a spaceship was really difficult. You can see here a bunch of clips of me trying to figure out good controls for a spaceship. So I start out with, let's rotate it based on where your mouse is at, right? So if your mouse is higher up, we'll rotate you up. If it's down, we'll rotate you down. And then you can move forward and back. Hypothetically, that would let you go wherever you want it to go. Trying out that movement ended up being super difficult to figure out how to navigate your ship. I thought I could solve it by simply putting a cursor in the center of your screen so that you could know exactly where your ship was looking. And this helped, but it still wasn't a very good set of controls, and you found yourself just having it so that the ship didn't go exactly where you wanted it to go. There was also something messed up with the rotation of the ship, because depending on where you were in the world, the ship would rotate in different ways. And that was actually one of the most frustrating things of trying to get these controls right, is that rotations are really confusing in any kind of game engine. And it takes you a moment to wrap your head around it. And you watch a few tutorial videos and you think you suddenly got it, and then you go to code it and you hit play and it's just completely wrong. After finally figuring out how to get the camera panning around correctly and the character panning around correctly, I thought it would be cool to pan around the ship based on the movement of your mouse. So that way you could tell kind of where you were going and that it just would look good as you flew around. Unfortunately, you can see I didn't quite figure out rotations because the ship doesn't rotate right when you're in the bottom left or bottom right corners of the screen, despite it being rotated right in every other direction, which just makes no sense. And it's so frustrating when you try all these rotation options and you get something so close to working, but then it doesn't work. Anyways, I thought I would kind of show some of this rotation visually. And so you see here that every object in Godot has an ability to rotate it in three different directions. So you have the X in red, the Y in green, and the blue is your Z axis. And so depending on the order of your rotations and what your point of reference is, it makes it so that the order matters for your rotations. If you rotated X first versus Y first versus Z first, you're going to get different options of what your ship looks like as it's rotating. And then likewise, you can also rotate your player on the X, Y, and Z axis to change which direction they're looking in the world. So this combinations of your character and your ship being able to rotate all the different directions, it's pretty simple in code to explain to a computer like rotate the Z first and then rotate the X. But then when you go to hit play, you're like, oh, this is not what I want. So then what is it that I want? Did I want Y first? Did I want Z first? Do I want the up direction of the worlds to be the rotation? Anyways, it was very confusing to try and figure it out. And I'm still not 100% sure that I could do it again. Like, obviously, I can reference the code that I've written, but I am just still not an expert on the order of rotations. And it's something that I feel like when I do it next time, that I'll kind of have to relearn it to re-internalize what it means to rotate on all the different axes. Anyways, after the rotation stuff, I decided to focus on the movement of the ship. And so I added it so it could smoothly accelerate and decelerate. And you could also do this cool kind of drifting mechanic where if you pointed your cursor to the side and held shift, then you would orbit around the object. And I thought it was kind of cool, and maybe I'll end up adding it in the future, but I'll have to polish the controls first to make sure it's something that I like, because really it was good enough that I could use it, but I don't think good enough that just anyone would be able to pick it up and enjoy it. Anyways, rotation and movement stuff aside, the next part was I noticed that there were some flaws in the model that I made, that when I imported it into Godot, it had two engines instead of four, and that there were two triangles missing on the side. And sure enough, the triangles were missing. You can kind of easily see that here in this kind of show me the surface mode, and then it'll paint the inside red and the surface blue. And it actually painted the engines as red as well, saying that these were inside faces instead of outside faces. And so after a quick fix and a few edits, I was able to get that working and then import it into Godot with the fixed triangles and the fixed engines. And now it will be a little bit more consistent and a little better. Next up was creating some flames. I wanted some flames on the back of your engine so you could tell how fast you were going. If it was big, that means you were at top speed. If it was small, it means you were stopped. And then I used blue as the forward color and pink as the going backward color. I also made it so that you could change the color dynamically in code so that in the game, maybe people would want to customize their engine colors. And I thought that would be a pretty cool option. Then I imported in my nebula shader from my first video and put that down, and then the game started really kind of taking shape. I got really distracted as soon as I got the nebulas in. It was just so much fun to kind of fly around. It reminded me of like sticking out your hand out of a car door window when you're on a fast road and you can kind of play with your hand going up and down. It was just mesmerizing and kind of fun to fly around this nebula space. After adding in the nebulas, the next step was to add in some dust particles. You'll see here that as soon as you fly past the cube in this three-dimensional space, it's really hard to tell where you're going and how fast you're going. And so adding in these little dust particles that appear just around the ship and kind of float around a little bit is really valuable in being able to see how fast your ship is going. So now if we play it, you'll see that you can tell when your ship is moving forward and that how fast you're going and that you're moving that direction. And as you turn, you can also see the dust particles slow down on one side and speed up on the other. I find it extra fun to just kind of stop in place and then move forward and watch all the other particles fly by. And yeah, anyways, dust particles added in. After adding in dust particles, the next step was to customize the engine colors. So I wanted to make it so it was black when you were stopped, and then would be the full color when you were at full speed. So here's a quick demo of that. Just black as you stop, blue moving forward, and then it will turn black again as you slow down, and then it will turn pink as you go in reverse, which I thought was a pretty cool effect and made me pretty happy. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you want to leave a comment, I'd appreciate it, either on what I can do to make my videos more entertaining, or if you end up using this asset in your own project. And now for the time lapse.